Today I've been driving two V12 Ferraris, and I can tell you guys, it's been absolutely amazing. Obviously. Special thanks to the owner, Mike. Follow him on Instagram at 312supercars. He made this video possible, and it's been a blast of a day driving two V12 Ferrari. So what I want to talk about today is how much has the flagship front-engine V12 rear-wheel drive Ferrari V12 changed over the course of about 2 decades. This is a 550 Maranello, which was built about 1997 to 2002, and this here is the top-of-the-line latest 812 Superfast. The engine in the 550 Maranello is a 5.5 liter V12, hence the name 550. It made 478 horsepower and 419 pound-feet of torque. 0 to 60 would happen in about 4.2 seconds, up to a top speed of 199 miles an hour. And the other really important thing with the 550 is it was the last V12 front-engine Ferrari that was available only with a gated manual transmission. You could not get any sort of paddle shifter in the 550 gated manual only. Now on the 812, this is latest generation, the engine in this is actually the world's most powerful naturally aspirated engine. 6.5 liter V12, it makes 789 horsepower and 529 pound-feet of torque. 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds and a top speed of 211 miles an hour. It is insanely fast. 7-speed dual clutch only, rear-wheel drive, so you can't get a manual transition. So off the top, the biggest difference is obviously gated manual, not gated manual. So on paper, these technically could seem very similar. They're front engine V12, rear wheel drive, they make a lot of horsepower. They're quite expensive. When brand new, this Maranello was about $200,000. An 812 starts at $335,000, and like this one has been optioned to, you can easily surpass $400,000. They're both insane feats of engineering, and they have very different characteristics, as I found out while driving them. This car weighs about 3,700 pounds. This is about 3,850. So even though it's bigger and longer, it's got a bigger engine, the weight savings and the new technology of carbon fiber and all the fancy materials has kept the weight to a reasonable amount. The 812 obviously is a lot faster than the 550, but they both kind of fulfill the more GT-oriented type of vehicle. When this came out, it was tackling the Aston Martin Vanquish as the front-engine grand touring vehicle. They've got luggage shelves behind the seats. They're two-seaters only. They've got decent-sized trunks that you can put stuff into. In terms of exterior styling, they both maintain the same general proportions because they are front-engine V12, 2 seats, 2 doors, and rear-wheel drive. But you can really see how things have changed in the 2 decades. The 550, I'm going to steal Mike's little comment. He says, it looks like it's smiling at you. It looks happy. Whereas the 812 is a little bit more angry. It looks like it wants to eat you. But you can also really see how much more sculpting and how many more vents and how aerodynamics is shaping the 812 as technology has advanced. The 550 is a little more simple. It's cleaner, smoother. The 812 it really is shaped by aerodynamics, and also as manufacturing techniques have advanced, you can do more complex body lines and more fancy active aero stuff, where the 550 was simple 20 years ago. Also, one big difference, this car was designed by Pininfarina. By the time the 812 came out, Ferrari had gotten rid of Pininfarina. They were no longer working with them anymore. Around back, you can see they both have the quad taillights, but the 812 is much more advanced with like the LED little halo circle, which looks amazing. Quad exhaust tips down below. The other big thing, 812 here is on HRE wheels, lowered on Novatec springs, whereas this has been kept very original, very clean since it was brand new. The first thing we have to note about the interior of the Ferrari 550 is the fact that I have to drive it without shoes on. The gas pedal and brake pedal are so close and my feet are too wide, and if I go to hit the gas, it would also hit the brake, so I am currently driving without shoes on. The second thing is, especially going back and forth between this and the brand new 812, is how much more simple and clean the interior of the 550 is. The steering wheel itself, we have 2 buttons here for the horn. That is it. There's no paddle shifters back there. There's no start-stop button there. There's not windshield wipers and high beams, and it's just a steering wheel. That's all there is here. The inside, again, this was in 2000, so technology was at a very different place compared to a brand new 812, but there aren't any digital screens. We have a basic radio here. We got our climate control knobs, which look like anything from that era. We've got a bunch of dials here. The fuel gauge is in the middle there. Now, are gated manuals the most smooth and fastest shifting? I honestly don't think so. Like, you pull up a Porsche manual or something that's not gated, and the only gated I've driven are going to be this Ferrari and also Gallardo and my R8. But it doesn't promote the fastest of shifting. To be very deliberate and clean, but when you get it right, oh, it's just so satisfying, and it also just looks so amazing. This machined out plate here, it's a work of art, and it's special. This Ferrari V12 The subsequent generation, you had the 575, then you went up to the 599, F12. Those later ones started introducing the paddle shifters. Now, the initial F1 paddle shifter transmissions were, how do I put this nicely, not good. And you could still get them with a gated manual, but they became more and more rare, and eventually they just completely phased them out. This was the last one where you could only buy it with a gated manual transmission. Clutch feel is great. I am driving without shoes on, so that does help a little bit, but engagement point is nice and easy to find. I got very comfortable driving this car very quickly. Now, compared to the 812, it is honestly a whole different planet. This feels more comfortable, GT oriented. This rides better than the 812. Even in bumpy road mode, it is a little more compliant. Now, the 812 does have the caveat that that thing has Novatec springs, so it is lowered a little bit, and that would impact your ride quality. But this thing's a little more comfortable. Now, you can't get away from the power. This, for its time, was pretty quick, doing almost 200 miles an hour top speed, 0 to 60 in 4.2 seconds, approximately. Now, with the 812, you're talking almost 800 naturally aspirated horsepower, and with a fast 7-speed dual clutch, that thing would do 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds. 0 to 100 in the 812 is, I think, 5.6, whereas this is like 9.8 or something like that, just under 10. So the 812 is almost twice as fast, and you definitely feel it. But the fact that this has a manual, the different feeling about it, it's really hard to put words, and I know it's kind of my job to put words describing how a car feels so you can understand, but it's a different feeling to it. They're both amazing in their own ways. So driving these two cars back to back, what is it like? What has 20 years of Ferrari V12 development done? I mean, it's turned it into an absolute beast of a car, one of the fastest in the world, one of the most visceral and exciting and just insanely super fast cars ever. But I'm happy to say that the 550 still holds its own. It still feels very special, very exciting. Now, clearly not quite as fast. Actually, not even close to being quite as fast, but it still is extremely special. Now, when this car came out, I was, I think, literally 6 years old in 2000. I remember when I first started really getting into cars and liking them and reading about things. The 550 was out. They had done the 575. I remember the 575 Super America being the coolest thing ever. Ooh, look, a McLaren 12C. Was really, really awesome. And then eventually 599, F12, and so on. I am amazed that I'm getting to drive one of these cars, and it is a different feeling, but still very, very unique, and it's still very exciting. I think the fact that it's a manual is what makes it so special. And that might be a little bit of a cliche, but as fewer and fewer vehicles are available, I think people are going to start moving back to cars like this. This bottomed out in value, and they've been steadily climbing up. I think maybe 8 to 10 years ago, you could get one of these for, maybe not even 8 to 10 years ago, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, you could buy one of these for $80,000 to $100,000, and now a lot of these, a good clean example like this one would be $150,000 plus, and they're going to start going up as the last of the truly gated only vehicles, and you have a NA V12, it's always going to be special. So some final thoughts on the 550 before I go in and hop in the 812 and wrap this video up. This car has hydraulic steering, whereas the 812 has gone to completely electric, and you can feel a bit of a difference. The hydraulic does feel a little more direct. This obviously doesn't handle the same way the 812 does. The 812 is actually technically mid-engine because the entire V12 sits behind the front axle. But at the end of the day, I can't pick between the two. If you really, really force me to, I'd be like 812, because it is the newest thing, and it is just so insanely fast, and I love the way it looks, and I love the way it sounds. But driving the 550, the manual feeling to it is a little more comfortable, and the kind of nostalgia, the simplistic feeling. I've been just driving it. I haven't been worried about CarPlay or what transmission mode I'm in, and whether I'm in sport or race or CT off. I am just enjoying a 5.5 liter naturally aspirated V12 and a gated 6-speed manual transmission. And with that, let's hop in A12. We'll talk a little bit more about that and how it compares, and you guys will see me giggle like a child as I accelerate an 800 horsepower supercar. And now we're gonna jump 20 years into the future with the Ferrari 812 Superfast, which they might as well have called the 812 stupid fast, silly fast, or scary fast, because those would all be accurate statements. Oh man, these cars are, the more I've gone back and forth between the two of them, the more different I can say they feel. Now, even outside of the power is obviously going to be a monumental difference. This thing makes almost 800 horsepower. Well, fun fact, the name 812 refers to the fact that it makes 800 metric horsepower, which apparently are smaller than full-size horsepower because it makes 789 normal horsepower, 800 metric horsepower, and a V12 engine. That's where you get that name. And Superfast actually has some history. Back in I think the 1960s, there was a 500 Superfast, so the name does have some issue. The CEO of Ferrari did not just ask his 12-year-old to name the car after showing him a model of it. But the inside, oh man, let me give me a second to gather my train of thoughts, because this thing just is literally mind-blowing. The interior is overwhelming when you hop out of something like the 550. We'll talk about the steering wheel. We have turn signals on the steering wheel. You push them. We have start button here. We have bumpy road suspension, high beam control. We have the turning little knob that controls whether you're in wet mode or sport mode or race mode. I am currently in CT off, and the top of the line is ESC off, which I'm not going to go into. Windshield wipers, the big carbon fiber shift paddles behind the steering wheel, and then oh! So, continuing on the inside, because I'm trying to maintain my train of thought. A lot of carbon fiber here, a couple of screens. This car does have the second passenger screen option on it, which I believe was pretty expensive, but that is more data than the entire 550 was able to output. Does still have an analog tachometer right in the middle with two big digital screens on either side. I actually really like it. The analog tachometer, lit up right now because it's getting dark outside, looks absolutely amazing, because that's the most important thing in the 812. Holy crap. So driving the two of them, yeah, this thing is unbelievably fast, and it's rear-wheel drive only, which blows my mind that it can do 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds, because you're trying to put almost 800 horsepower down to just two rear tires, and as you can tell, I mean, when you step on it, it will spin the tires. This thing also is just more racy, more hardcore, more edgy, whereas the 550 was a little more comfortable. You shift the gears yourself. It rode a little more supple. The engine almost felt more torquey, even though this makes more torque. This is a more high-revvy, racy type of engine feeling with a really, really fast-shifting 7-speed dual clutch. But dude, this thing will it'll hold oh my god, I can't even make intelligent sounding sentences right now. Oh, there's a bridge. Now I have a 6.5 liter V12. Oh, it's not that long of a bridge, but still. It just immediately wants to step out. Oh my god. Listen to those downshifts. Ever since I first drove an 812, I decided it was one of my most favorite cars ever. It is nearly flawless. I could not think of a single downside to it, except for the fact that it's a $400,000 supercar that I can't quite afford. It offers you the power, the sound, the excitement, the performance of something like an Aventador, but it's ergonomically friendly. I am very comfortable. At 6'3", I have headroom, I've got long legs, I'm seated comfortably, I don't feel claustrophobic and cramped. It's got a nice little parcel shelf back there, a good-sized trunk in the back. You could spend a 12-hour road trip in the Ferrari 812, whereas I once spent 8 hours in a Huracan and wanted to cry. It was not an enjoyable experience. In terms of value, the 812 is a very, very expensive car. As befits the most powerful naturally aspirated engine in the world, it costs a lot. This is the flagship Ferrari. And I mean, starting at $335,000, you can price this thing, as this one has been optioned, up to over $400,000 with extensive options applied. Now, is it $200,000 additional driving experience compared to that 550? I don't think I can objectively say that, but I mean, the progress has been made. Ferrari has transformed their V12 kind of more grand touring, comfortable vehicle into a insane supercar that very few can keep up with, and very few cars in the entire world can match the excitement. The owner, Mike, asked me, out of all the cars that I've driven that he owns and I've seen that they have, which one is my favorite? And I told him the A12 is my favorite. I haven't driven the Pista yet, so that might be coming soon. But the A12 is my favorite, but then I made the caveat that it is not necessarily the most exciting. The first-gen Murcielago with that straight-pipe titanium exhaust from B-Rogue built was insanely exciting. Ergonomically, it was horrible. The shifts took 3 decades longer than the shifts in this car did. But the massive smile on my face just did not go away over the entire drive. Not to say the A12 is not exciting, but it has that level of refinement to it. You could legitimately daily drive this car without a single problem at all, well, except for burning through a tanker full of gas every other day, but details. The similarities between both of these, I'm impressed that even across the decades, these are supercars with supercar levels of performance for the time that you can daily drive with comfort. They ride well, the seats are comfortable, you can see out of them, there is practical space for luggage. They both sound good in different ways. The 550 is a little more lower, more rumbly, whereas this has that high-pitched, kind of race car-like scream to it. This, obviously, with the dual clutch transmission that is faster than your brain could process, whereas the gated manual, you have to be a little more deliberate with it, but it's also so much more rewarding when you get that perfectly rev-matched downshift that is so satisfying in the 550. So, if I'm 100% honest, there really is no comparing. You can't really compare the two of them because they've just changed it so much and taken this to a whole other planet in terms of how it feels to performance. It's really, I'm happy to see the excitement has not diminished in any way. The 550 is so really fun and rewarding to drive. The A12 will blow your mind and scare the crap out of your passenger. You can't go wrong with either car. They fulfill a very specific desire, and ultimately the best way to win and have everything you could want to have is to own both of them, which Mike is lucky enough to have both of these. So on a day you want to take out the manual, you take out the 550, and when you want to relax and just be insanely fast, you take out your 812 Superfast. So there we go, a quick view into how the V12 front engine Ferraris have changed over the past 20 years. You went from 550 through multiple generations all the way up to this 812, and 20 years later, the 812 is truly mind-blowing. They've taken this type of vehicle and refined it to where there are few automobiles in the entire world that are road legal that can offer the same level of excitement, refinement, comfort, and just insanity. Has been amazing. Make sure you guys like, follow, subscribe, comment below. Which one would you rather take? Which one would you rather own? Make sure you guys follow Mike, the owner, on Instagram at 312 Supercars. I hope you guys enjoyed this video because I sure did enjoy driving it. It's been such a mind-blowing day. It's caused me to struggle to string together words to sound intelligent. But hopping between the two of these cars, driving them, seeing the difference is a dream come true. Absolutely amazing. Thanks for watching, guys.